Go. And tonight's nugget, we're discussing and talking about the question I posed. If you didn't see it, if you didn't see it from the live, is what are you sowing? What are you sowing? And I can think of a different way to put it, but what are you sowing? And really, it's a question that I think we have to, have some introspection and reflection, and to think about. And I know for me, I think I was just, in my moments and time, to myself, and I was just thinking about and evaluating like some things and what's been happening, in my life, and just different things that have been occurring, and all these different type of things, and even some things externally that is not necessarily tied to me, but what I've seen happen to other people, and some things that you see different things take place, and or past experiences and different things, and it just made me start thinking. And so a lot of times you may have heard or may have also, hear it coined as like, maybe do unto others as you have them do unto you. The law of reciprocity, a lot of different ways, to maybe coin it. And I'm not talking about sowing as monetary means. So I'm not talking about giving money and those kind of things. But really, I'm talking about more so the type of intangibles of what you're sowing. And it's important. So you can think about sowing. What are you sowing in your life? In regards to a lot of different things relationally, in family, in your career or job, in your friendships. Are you one that has, more of a positive mindset or outlook? Are you one that, do good to others and for others? Or are you one that have maybe the opposite effect? Maybe envy, strife, contentment, disagreements, different things like that. And that's what I was thinking about myself. So I have to do these self checks, and these are things that, I tell you that I personally think about for myself initially, and then I want to share with you and pose and maybe give you food for thought and give you a nugget, right, to take with you to help you along the way, and maybe give you something to reflect and journal and look at. And so when I was thinking about that, I'm like, okay, well, what are my relationships like, or have been? Am I like the friend that I desired to have? Or am I, the family member, whether that's a sister or a daughter or a cousin or an auntie or even a mother, like all those kind of things. Am I that to them is what I would kind of expect in return? Even how I look at my job, even not just who I deal with, like my coworkers, but even the people that I deal with and talk to on a daily basis. On the flip side of that, they call in because they're the customer, they're the one that's in need, right? They're the client. You can call it a lot of different things, but there's sometimes where it's flipped. And so I'm on the other end, and I am the client, I am the customer. And so I had to realize that, what I give out, even when I'm dealing with people And I love and enjoy working and dealing and talking with people and helping them, like truly helping them in the best way that I can. And I realized that I have to check that too, because I can't, it's not good. We all have challenges and may have days, right? But having an attitude or being short or having different things where you can come off rude, um, and different things, it's not a positive experience. And I have definitely been on the other side of getting the brunt of some really upset, angry, disrespectful people, um, whether they mean it directly towards me or not, or it's just a situation. Just simple examples like that. I'm thinking like, what do I give off? How am I perceived? How am I received in my interactions with people, whether they personally see me or know me or not? But I still represent something, and there's still seeds being sown. I'm still giving out, something in my interactions and my encounters with others. Um, and so a lot of the times I've thought, well, I don't know why, this happened to me. I don't know why that happened to me, different things. And one day I had to have a real like conversation with myself, with me, and say maybe there's been some things that I have sown before that were not positive. I'm now reaping what I sowed previously. So there's a scripture that says Galatians 6:7 from a scripture standpoint. It says, "Whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." And a lot of times, I think we can take that and mean that we're only going to reap good things. Though it's only going to be that blessing, that money in my pocket, that car, that house, or it's going to be in favorable for me, when we apply this scripture. And I'm not trying to come from a Debbie Downer standpoint, but I want to be realistic, and give you again the other piece to the puzzle, and the flip side of the coin is that we can reap, not so good things, by the choices and the actions that we make and take. And so we have to be able to accept that too, and realize that, we have to be accountable and responsible for it. And then we can't expect that we can escape and say that, oh, this is bad, or oh, this is not what I wanted to have happen, or God, where are you at now? This is not for me, or this wasn't supposed to happen. But we have to go back and think and ask ourselves and question, within, is this something that I've sown previously? All right. So I know, even in the things that we have maybe sown that are not good seeds, um, God is still at times gracious to us and merciful, that maybe all of what we deserve, He doesn't give us. And sometimes there are things that we go through that we've sown the seed, we have to reap the full harvest of it, and take it. Um, and maybe, we can just, God will grace us, give us some grace to go through it and to bear it. But understand that regardless if it's good or bad, that you have seeds that you're sowing. And so my question to you again is, what are you sowing? Because what you're sowing, what you're putting out there, what you're putting into the ground, um, what you're sowing into, to other people and doing, you will eventually reap. And so right now, maybe you're in maybe more in the mode of sowing, and maybe you're the one that's giving, maybe you're the one that's investing, maybe you're the one that's putting out. But understand what you're putting into or putting out right now is gonna come back. So the whole standpoint and understand about farming and all of that. We plant seeds in the ground, you water it, you take care of it, and eventually it springs forth and it presents a harvest. And so when it comes to your season of harvest, what will you reap? Well, it's no secret. What you're going to reap is what you have sown. Okay. And so maybe even on the flip side of that, maybe it's like, well, Tasha, I have sown good things. I do my best. I'm kind, I'm helpful. I try to help those in need and do all these things. I do right on my job. I do all these things. And yet it seems as if, I'm still getting the brunt of bad things, that I'm still not seeing this good harvest come. Well, I can tell you I've experienced and been there too. That you feel like, what's the use of doing good? What's the use of doing right? What's the use of doing it the right way? What is the use? Because it just doesn't seem like you're getting rewarded for doing right and for doing good. Well, I want um, to pause at this moment and to let you know, keep doing right, keep sowing the right seeds, because although it may not come when you want it to, and you may not see it happen within the next couple months or weeks or days, or maybe it takes even some years, I promise you, your harvest will catch up to you and you will reap. It will come to you. I can tell you some things that I could have felt justified in. We talked about last week about forgiveness. And I could tell you there are plenty of things that I could say I felt justified in, that I wanted to go and retaliate and do what was done unto me. But then there also would have been seed that was sown that I would have to reap. So if we think about even in that context, about even in forgiveness and what has happened to us at the hands of other people, one of the things that God let me know, like there was growth and maturity there, was that I was able to plant a seed and sow it to someone who had done me wrong. And I did it from a pure and genuine place. No malice, no anger, no hatred, not recalling back to my mind like what had happened or transpired. But I was willing to help and sow into that person and persons' lives from a true, genuine place to help them at their time of need. Now, not only does that help in two areas, and two things that we just talked about is, one, made the choice to forgive. We talked about that, right? And moving forward in that. So that's planting a seed. Now I'm also planting a seed to help someone in whatever time frame and what capacity that I can, because they need it. So while I'm not doing it to say that I'm going to expect you to give me something in return, I know that ultimately I'm doing what really is innately within me. Like, I just like to be able to help and give. And I don't want to see, someone hurt or without. And if there's something that I feel like I can do, then I want to try to do it, to help them and to aid. Now, even when we get to the point that we've been hurt and we've been wounded, sometimes it can be easy to retract, and it can be easy to retreat back into our corner and say, now I don't want to do that anymore because I've been hurt. And so then you start maybe to want to emulate and do what other people have done to you, because that's what it seems like is always coming to you. And I want to tell you, that's a vicious circle and cycle to get into. And it makes it harder on you in the long run. So I want you to, think on that, ponder over that, have that little conversation, that moment of reflection and time frame of meditation or devotion in your time this week, and think, what have I been sowing? Am I sowing into good, or am I sowing into bad things? Because whatever I've sown, and maybe that can answer some of your questions from previous, and you realize some of the choices and things you've done is because you have previously sown bad seed. Well, guess what? Doesn't mean that you have to continue to do that, and that's what's going to always happen for you. You have the power and the choice, right? We talk about we're being intentional. We have the power within us to choose to now change the course and the trajectory of our life and our path. So if you've previously been, sowing into background, you've been sowing into negative things, you've been sowing into contention and hatred and strife, you've been sowing into lying and cheating and stealing and all these different things. You've been sowing into things that you know that's ultimately not good to you or good for you. Then now is a chance that you can make that change and make that step to now sow into good ground, to sow into the positive, to sow into the good things. And as you begin to have more of a sowing season of sowing into the good, then your harvest is going to be good. And not just good, but great. When you sow into the things of God, even as you're being drawn and compelled and led to, his return on the investment is unmatched. There's nothing or no one that can match the benefits that you get by doing the right thing God's way. And I know it means that maybe it doesn't happen the way we want exactly or when we want it, but I promise you, it will surpass what we can even fathom or think when we allow ourselves to do it the right way and to do it God's way. So I'm asking you, what are you sowing? Because remember, what you sow is what you're going to reap. So it's not a trick question. It's not an answer that you maybe have to go and dig and even ask other people, but it's something within you. You already know what you've been doing. You already know if you're sowing and how you're sowing and what you're sowing into, then that is what you can expect to have as your harvest. Okay. And I want whatever the best for you and all that God has for you. And so this is to help push you along that way, to have that introspection and reflection, that if by chance that has not been something that you are sowing into good ground so that you can live intentionally and live out your God ordained purpose, then now is the opportunity for you to make a change. Right? Are you ready to make that change? And if you are already at a point where you're doing and sowing into good ground, then keep doing it. Because even when it gets hard and it will be tested, even when it seems difficult, and even when it seems that you are being made fun of, like the butt of the joke because you're the one. I felt that way. I literally felt like stupid, if I can be real, and felt like I'm definitely the odd one out. And it just doesn't, in our mind or in my mind, it just didn't make sense. It just wasn't clicking, because from the outside looking in, yeah, this ain't adding up. Why would you do that? What? What? Why would you do that? But I had to put aside those things. And I've been influenced previously before and allow voices and what I hear and see from others influence me to do and to respond and behave and to sow. Yeah. And I had to reap it. I had to deal with the decision that I made. Story, true story. I know I was, in your younger years, you may think you know a lot, and you have those people in your corner and your family, mom, dads, or grandparents, or someone who's older, mature, who's been experienced, who's lived longer, and they try to help you and guide you and lead you and say, nah, 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 I don't think you want to do that, or, try to help you along your journey. And, as young ones growing up, we probably all have more than one experience where we feel like we've gone against the grain. And I can tell you that I felt like for, a lot of, my life, I was always doing things by the book or, doing things right. And it came down to me making a really big decision for myself. And I felt like I'm smart. I'm intelligent. I've done things right all this time. Surely I can do this too. And I had everything that said the opposite. So I had family and just, other things that even God was giving me as a witness that no, maybe this is not the choice you want to make. Maybe you need to listen to sound wisdom. Maybe you need to go over this way. And I was stubborn. I was adamant about doing it the way I thought that I needed to do it and where I wanted to go and how I wanted to do it. And I had to realize, this is one of the big things, that choice that I made, I had to reap and own that decision that I made, that it took years for me to recover from. Now, I say that because I even had to go back in this experience for me and really recognize that I didn't know what I thought I was talking about. And I even had to go back and to correct it. And I remember having a conversation even with my mom, and I just told her, I was like, and this is the point, what we sow into, and good or bad, do you know that it can indirectly, or even directly affect those that are connected to you? So can I say, by the choice that I made, that I was impacting and had impacted my family and those that were connected to me? So now it wasn't just about me and my decision and my choice that I made and me having to suffer and go through those consequences and accept the responsibility, but then they were indirectly affected by it. So I ended up going back to my mom and talking to her, and I even apologized, and I said, I'm so sorry. I want to apologize to you because I realized that my actions that I took actually hurt you. And so I want you to be conscious that even when you think it's about you, it's not just about you. And because you have people who are in your corner and love you, don't take that for granted. Now, I love my mother, and she could have easily said, "I told you so." And even in the many a times that um, I was reaping the consequences from my choices, never once was that ever said. Um, and there was still grace there, even in the midst of it. But you don't ever want to take for granted those people that are still in your corner or are there with you. And sometimes, even when you want to have that selfish moment, like, you have to still be selfless in a sense and think about what you're doing and the choices that you're making and where you're sowing is going to affect somebody else. Not only that, it affects even people that are directly close to you that you know. There are people who are watching you who do not know, like, that you don't know, that you may not even know, but they see you from afar off. And that's a whole nother story, guys, I can tell you about later, but I'm not going to keep talking here. But I just want you to know that what you sow, you will reap. So make sure you're sowing into the good. Remember that what you're sowing not only affects, and the choices that you make not only affect you. It's not about you, but it's about everyone else who is connected to you. And they will be impacted by your choice. And they can also be connected to what you reap and have to experience it too. So be aware, be mindful, and make sure that you are sowing into good ground, that you're sowing into the good things so that you can reap a joyous, happiest, prosperous harvest. All right. I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense. I hope that gives you something to think about and take with you for the week. What are you sowing and what are you sowing into?